This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by Pechakucha, wherein creatives, writers, graphic designers, and general folks tell interesting stories across 20 slides for 20 seconds each. Come and watch the mayhem. Your hosts, Samantha Biko, Justin Curry, and Gregory Kamichuk, as we appear this February 20th. Doors open at 7:30, starting at 8 o'clock.
Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
Something I've kind of noticed recently is, like, aside from Comic-Cons, which are kind of like my main hustle, there is a slew of freelance that I could take on if I so decided or wanted to. Like, I have a cushion of jobs that I know I could get, but I'm not taking.
Well, our intro conversation about what we're going to talk about turned into the podcast.
So I think, yeah, that's just a change that I've been more aware of lately, is that we're on a lot of lists for, to get things done by people. We're on radars.
Without soliciting anything?
Without soliciting.
Oh.
Without proper websites.
Yeah. Which has been an issue for a while for you guys.
We're working on it, but we do not have proper websites.
Yeah, we have a good one.
Yeah.
I have a half-decent website that is under construction. Like, even if we were to publish all the stuff that Great Sam has put together just as it is now, it's already 10 times the website it was that I've ever had. But from, I think, her perspective, it's like only half of what a website should be. So we're just
and like a tenth of what Fabled Creative's website is.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Those guys are the gold standard.
Yeah, they're a gold standard.
So let's talk a little bit about marketing yourselves as artists. You've now gotten to the point where you've done enough work that you don't really need to do that. As far as I'm not talking about cons, I'm talking about other work, freelance. And you made it sound like you disagree with that statement.
Yeah, that's my disagreement sound. It's sounds a little bit like a computer booting up.
Maybe because it's a lot of short-term jobs, but what you really want is 2 or 3 huge clients that return over and over again. Like Marvel.
Yes, well, okay, but so I'm of a number of minds about this particular thing. As
More than 2 minds.
More than 2. It's not just 2. It's a number of minds. Because, it would be great to have a big, long-term client, but then you're working for someone else.
Mm-hmm. It's basically just having a job.
You're just having a job.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have a job. Our job is to do lots of different jobs all at the same time. And so you trade the one for the other. Okay, so this is what I have to say about this whole notion that, because I come out of the regular job world, right? Where, like, I went to school, I got a career related to what I went to school for in education. I was a teacher. And for American listeners, it's a lot... Canadian teachers have it a lot better than American teachers.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
By a long shot.
Okay.
Yeah, we're paid fairly, and our union is well supported, and so it's a different. It's a great job. Like, you really, there's nothing to complain about if you can get people will complain about anything for sure, but it's from my perspective. But so you have this security, right? I've been in the world of job security. And as I've moved into the world of sort of a purely creative, trying to live a more creative lifestyle, if you will, I've realized that a lot of people in the administration of the arts have taken on the role of that exact thing. They'd rather be the administrators because being an administrator gives them that stability again. So, like, your producers in film and television, they want to remain producers. So they don't want too many people to come in and shake up their status quo. They don't want too many people to come in and tell them that the way it is not going to work, because then that security disappears for them, right? The same is true of publishers, of editors, right? The people who are the tastemakers, the gatekeepers, and essentially the administrators now to the arts don't want their regular job to disappear. And so, I mean, we've seen it from an art directing standpoint, right? Where you're given directive that is just present so that a directive can be given, It actually did not provide any useful content. It didn't provide you any feedback whatsoever. It's just somebody saying like, I'm the boss, so please do what the boss says. And then you end up having to redo it because
It wasn't right in the first place.
they're just following chain of command. So, yeah, this is a bit of a rant, but when we're talking about like what you're after, I think is what I'm saying, right? Like, you don't just want to have like a big client that pays all your bills, unless it's work that you find fulfilling. Sam has a new client. We'll leave that on another podcast. It's her story to tell. But what's great is the fit, right?
Okay.
It's like it's a wonderful fit where she's working with some people, and when a project was like presented, it's like could be one of these 5 things. She was like, I hope it's this one. I hope it's this one. I hope it's this one. They're like, oh, it's that one, right? And so it's this great fit. And so those things are going to help everybody, right? It's going to help the client, and it's going to help the creative because everyone wants to do it, and they're going to communicate well about it, and there's going to be some connection.
Right.
It's
like winning the lottery.
That is like, so those are great clients to have, but they're rare. And the other side of it is, if you're not going to, it's trite, I suppose, but if you're not going to build your own dream, you're going to help someone else build theirs, right? So you have to ask yourself, if all of the people who are pitching us client-related work, right, who are saying, hey, come and do this, they see what we're doing, and they want some of that for what they're doing, right? And if you take your hand off the wheel to steer their ship for a while, right, what happens to yours? And this isn't a, I don't have an answer.
No,
You're just
talking.
This is just the state of things.
That's what the podcast is.
Yeah.
So, but you guys have a mix, like your mix from day to day. You have your fingers in a bunch of pies, to use that cliche. I don't know where that comes from.
Colloquialism.
Yeah, there we go. And so right now, for example, you are working on Dragon Nanny, which is your next book.
Yeah.
Right. So there's that, but that is not something that you're not really getting paid to do that right now because you get paid when you sell the book.
Right.
Correct?
Yeah.
So that is one thing. You are doing other stuff that is freelance stuff, and you're also spending time creating new pieces for shows.
Right.
That's kind of the main thing that you do.
Yeah.
Right. So, but this is like all...
And overseeing the production of a statue you were working on.
Yeah.
And young adult book set in the world of Casting Tonk. And
Super excited
in
about it.
Animation? How's that going?
It's all coming together like really well. But there are all these things that take your time and energy.
Right. That's right.
And all of them are future us may be really happy that past us put all this time in. But future us may also look back and be like, guys, it was obvious you shouldn't have done that. Like, what a waste of time. You're like, you have no business doing this, right? And you don't know which one is the one.
Yeah, that's part of the risk of doing this for a living.
Yeah,
doing what you guys do. There is no stability. I mean, you have a stable career. There's no doubt about that. You will be working as artists for a long time, but for some people, there is that stability takes a while to get there. Like I imagine for you guys, it did take a while to get to the point of stability like this.
Is there even stability? Like, it's not a sure thing. There's a lot of factors that could change.
But you just said you have a nice bed of jobs if you need to take them?
Yeah, like if tomorrow I decided I don't want to work for myself and I want to become a freelance artist full time, I feel like I could line up a couple months of work fairly easily. I don't want to do that. Like it'd be a lot of work I wouldn't necessarily enjoy. But it's nice to have that. And that was something that, especially starting out, you strive to achieve, right? You were grasping for those connections and those jobs.
What we need here, Williams, is a show with zazz, an entertainer with moxie. We've got to take the audience by the ears and give them a yank, jar them, rock them, give them the old push, push, push.
So full disclosure, if I wanted to, burn this whole place down and go back to teaching.
Don't you dare.
It's, well within my grasp because
right.
I love teaching.
You still have your degree.
I still have my degree. Yeah. I still have, I have a pretty good reputation in my field. I'm working on an educational book right now. There are ways in which I could
go
back into the classroom without any.
Would you go back to the exact same kind of teaching, or would you want to do something like publishing, like teaching publishing? Whereas, that's something I think about, like long term. Like maybe I want to.
You mean combine both skill sets?
Yeah.
to talk about the journey. Yeah, well, I mean, we kind of do that already for our workshops and things in a small way. And if there was a, I mean, like I've thought about this a few times. Red River does lots of different programs in lots of different ways that are more specific to actual jobs.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Trade school.
In fact,
it's like trade stuff. So, it's occurred to me a few times when I like have that like, oh man, I miss there's a power that comes from having a classroom. And not like in a megalomaniac way. I mean, like in like, mwah. I mean, like you got 30 people who trust you and you're there to help them. And you're just giving of yourself in a way that is constantly eroding this idea of ego. It actually disappears because there's always someone in a classroom setting that'll tell you what they really think of you, right?
Yeah.
So that part's great. And whenever I'm missing that, I think, oh, well, maybe I could do a night class at Red River, or I could teach a sessional at the university. Like there are ways that I could feel that fulfillment because I have missed it, right?
Yeah, Red River College has the continuing education program, which are night and part-time courses that you can take in a variety of fields. You could do that, absolutely. They would be happy to have you there to teach something, and that kind of thing can also, if you want to take that choice down the road, like Justin, I'm sure you could come back and be an instructor in the graphic design program because you're a grad and you have experience and you've done this for a long time. So that's oftentimes they will bring back grads of programs to teach. I'm a grad of the program I teach in, but you do kind of have to grind it out for part-time for a while.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's something you could do in conjunction with this.
Yeah. My fear, as always, like even when I was teaching, and I taught for just about 10 years, that you become part of the clergy of mediocrity, right? Like you're not really doing anything. You're just telling people about how it probably is going to be. But the world has already changed by the time you get your job as a teacher. So the advice you're giving is actually valueless if it's specific, if it's too specific.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You can only give, you're trying to build better people, right? Having them challenge their assumptions and, think creatively and look at systems and say, like, how is this system broken? And is there a way that you can leverage what you're good at to fix it, right? Those are things that are going to have lasting value in their whole lives, no matter what.
Yeah.
If you teach them how to use this specific computer program to do this specific job, by the time they get into the job market, it's
done. It's gone.
Gone. And that's what I mean. Like that mediocrity is all that you're proposing to them. And I just... I had a great meeting with Brent Schmidt. He's a teacher collaborator of mine when I was in the classroom, and we're working on a education resource right now that connects to a graphic novel I'm working on, Good Boys. And we're just talking, like rehashing all the classroom stuff. And there's this like great thing going on in education right now where all these new educators are coming in with a mindset of, we don't know the future. And I think that we're going to see a huge change in what comes, like a generation from now, the kids that came to the classroom where the teacher's like, yeah, I don't know what's coming. Let's figure out what would make you a good person, a resilient person, a thoughtful person, a person that can handle lots of multiple stresses. That's going to be a very different world when those kids end up,
Instead of feeding them that line, you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket the rest of your
That's
life.
right, yeah.
So you got to learn.
Or you're worthless if you don't go to university, right? Like I took a certificate program at Red River, and I have a university degree, and one of them felt rigorous, and one of them felt a little bit
like a money grab.
A little bit.
I wonder which
right?
one was which.
And I'll let you could flip a coin. It's a 50-50 chance as to which I might be referring to. I made the best of both situations whenever I could.
And I think that's the key thing. You kind of get out of it what you put in, right?
Well, but then why have a system at all?
Well, you gotta have
to guide people. Otherwise, it's chaos.
Yeah, well,
right.
But I think like when I started,
well, we're in chaos now, aren't we?
I didn't have the discipline or the. I just didn't know how to. I didn't have that work ethic when I started.
That's right.
That was something that first and second year graphic design really instilled at me. I often think of like, oh my God, if I go back to high school with the work ethic that college taught me,
right,
I would have been a much, much better student.
Yeah. So we should do it in reverse. Wait till people are older and then send them to high school.
What are they going to do for those? They're going to work at Burger King for 20 years?
There's nothing wrong with working at Burger King.
I worked at at Taco Bell.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Challenge your assumptions.
Exactly.
Like if someone has a job and they're working hard at it, right? They should be
Nothing.
proud of their ability to get up and go
Andy
to that job.
Warhol loves Burger King. Did you know that?
Oh,
Did you
God.
see-
Don't get me started on that.
Okay, I saw. It's funny because I saw these tweets. This is getting back to the freelance versus day job thing, and this is actually a series of tweets from Hope Nicholson, who's another comics
And a
creator,
future guest of the show.
future guest
We
of
were
the
just
show, I'm
talking to her
sure.
yesterday.
Yes. So she started talking today about, it was earlier today. I'll just read it out. So, comics creator I was once on a panel with had quit his job at 23 to do comics full time, and after a year it was clear he couldn't survive, and he went back to work in part-time comics work. At 35, he had the opportunity to work full time on comics again. So this person, I don't know who it is. You guys might know. Tried, seemingly failed.
Mm-hmm.
They had to kind of go get a full time job again, and then kept making comics, but not as a full time job, and then came back to it at 35. So 12 years later. Then Hope talks about her personal experience. She went full time freelance for 2 years. It was very difficult. She said she was constantly on edge. Lucky to eventually find a day job that was a perfect fit. So she's back at a day job doing comics part-time, but she's able to continue the work, and that's helped her.
And it feels like making more books than ever.
Yeah,
also.
no kidding. Yeah, she's doing great work.
Yeah.
So so it's not like a badge of shame or anything like that to have to work while you're doing this. It is a necessity. You know what I mean? And some people can do both.
It's actually something to be proud of, I think. Like
Yeah.
if you have a side hustle that fires you up, and you have a regular job that solves your problems, and you find a way to make that work without resentment, man, be proud of yourself.
I think I've got that going with FanQuest. I've got my full-time job at the college, and FanQuest is a part-time. I'm certainly not making any money doing FanQuest right now, but I love doing it. I love doing it, and the people I work with love doing it, and so that's what and eventually, hopefully, we will make some money and be able to turn that into a job. But yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
Well, there's this there's a weird paradox, and we talked about this in our last workshop, right? That if you wouldn't do it for free, you'll never be able to make money at it.
Yeah, that's a good line. Who said that?
I said it, but I said it out loud as a way of just kind of like trying to encapsulate like a big rant that we had here at the thing. And then once I said it, I was like, I don't know. I didn't know for sure if I believed it. Like, it's sometimes one of the things that's fun about having the podcast, you listen to the nonsense that you say as advice, and then you're like, do I really believe that or don't I? But in this case, it was something that, in sort of summing up a big conversation that we had among 7 people about like what it's for and how do you keep going when there's no reason, like no seeming reason to, it just struck me that, if you wouldn't do it for free, you're not going to be able to make money at it.
And especially, we were talking, this was a workshop on specifically publishing books.
Yeah.
And to get into book publishing, to get hired to make a book, usually you have to have a book or two under your belt.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to come out of the blue, oh, you've never made a book, I'm going to pay you to make a book, right?
So you have to self-publish
You
something.
have to have made your own book, or at least enough pages that people believe you can make a book.
Yeah.
Right? You have to do it for free. You have to build up that portfolio.
Yeah, or for comic makers out there who are just like they can't leverage 120 pages to finish a graphic novel. 15, 20 pages in an anthology is more than enough. But you might, like, in order to prove to someone that you can do it, right? To present to them cogent work. But even getting that will require you to have drawn 500 pages of crappy illustrations in order to get to the point where you're finally able to refine your storytelling.
Nobody likes their first book.
Oh, God.
Yeah, very few people are proud of their first book.
Yeah, you
but
keep
it has to
bringing
happen.
up. I'll be showing early work like as examples in our workshops or as examples to other people, and then I put them away with some shame. And Justin's like, "This isn't that bad," but I can only see what I'm capable of now, and it's just right. And that's the hubris. I think that's the hubris of our own ego, saying like, "Oh, I'm so much better now." But hopefully, 10 years from now, I'll look back at stuff I did this year and be like, oh gosh, what was I thinking?
We'll see how the podcast sounds in 10 years.
Oh,
you guys will go back and go, what were we thinking doing?
It'll just be telepathic. People will just be right. Their brain nodes will be tuned into us, and we'll all just think together.
Just turn a dial in your mind to. It's like a telepathy radio.
Yeah.
Imagine like FanQuest Year 1 compared to FanQuest Year 10, right?
It's gonna be. I know it's gonna be incredible.
Entirely different beast.
That was what part of our original kind of. I was just going through the wording the other day because I realized we hadn't updated it and still said it still referred to FanQuest 2017, which was our first year, and it talked about how we want people in 5 years to be talking about how much fun they had. And we had kind of a 5-year plan for the thing. So that's kind of where we're now going to year 3 of that. And by the way, today was the 2-year anniversary of us hitting our Kickstarter goal for the first Fan Quest. So that's kind of a nice anniversary. We should share that on social media. But yeah, it is like, it is not the current state. It's where you're going to end up. You have that goal in mind. And you have to try and reach that goal.
Chasing.
Did you realize that when you made that name, was that something you absolutely knew? Like, that's what I'm doing. Or was it just kind of a cool sounding name?
No, it was the internal conversation of, oh my God, this thing that I did a year ago sucks. I'm so much better now.
Okay.
And that kept happening. It was that whole, the more you practice you put in, the better you get. And so you're always chasing. Yeah. The best piece is always the next one. So.
Poor Ahab goes mad chasing that whale.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's why, my logo is a whale.
But if he had caught that whale,
he would have been. What would he have done the next day?
Yeah. Right?
I don't know.
He's nothing.
Yeah,
each according to their gifts, right?
I would prefer a job, any job at all where I could be myself.
A good friend of mine lost her husband recently, and it's, young guy, had the stable job, had the great career, good dad, like the whole thing, and then just in a snap, over, gone. So, sure. You have to decide what it is that you're going to do with, there's like a million movie trailers that basically sum up the same thing. You got to decide what you're going to do with the time you've got, right? And if you hate the thing you're doing, make some small change. You don't have to do a huge pivot. Like when I went into education, I knew I'd wanted to be a teacher because I had worked in group homes for a good long while. And I just really liked that gratification of picking someone up and helping them along. Right, and sometimes you screw it up, and sometimes you get it right. But I thought maybe there's a better way to do it with more structure. The group home system in Manitoba is fraught with inconsistency.
It is, yeah.
And but the whole time, if I was working night shifts there, I'd be writing, I'd be drawing, I'd be doing other stuff, and I always told myself I'm also going to do this somehow. And everyone would ask me to choose one, and I rejected the idea that you had to choose one thing. Right, when you declare where your income comes from on your taxes, you declare that one source or those multiple sources of income or whatever it is. But in your life, everyone is trying to get you to define yourself as one specific specialized thing. And I told myself, no, I just want to have the 24 hours in the day, have some helping people, some being helped by people, some writing, some drawing, and that is the shape of the life that I want to have. How am I going to make that work? I had no idea, but I just kept trying to add skills to the toolbox to get each one of those areas of my life further along.
Doing your taxes must be a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. It's currently ongoing right now. Yeah.
I find comfort, for me, that was one of the things I was terrified of. Because there's a lot of talk in our program about freelance and getting work as a freelancer. And I never consider. I was like, no, I have a family. I need to provide. I need a stable income. So the idea of going freelance, although I'm confident I could do something with it, as a writer or as anything, social media marketer or anything like that, I was just, I don't want to risk it. Don't want to, what if I have a lean year? What if I can't provide or something like that? Similarly, in the world of advertising, a good chunk of advertising sales are done through commission. They sell things on a commission basis. And again, I never wanted to work in that field, although I think I could do it well because I really love advertising. I just don't like the idea of depending on a sale to get paid.
Right.
I've kind of issues with commission sales as a general rule.
Yeah.
So anyway,
because it changes the motivation.
Yeah, right? No, you're not. It compromises the product. That to me, it does that. So you're not doing it for the right reasons.
But then, how old are your kids?
12 to 8.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. I feel like.
But at the time, they were just young. It was very much one wasn't even born yet.
Yeah.
So.
And I completely understand that perspective because when I took my full-time job as an educator, it was also. Coincidentally, the same year that my first son was born.
Right. Because it's you have no room for error when you have a baby in the house, right? You have to have a stable income.
Yet there is a lot of room for error.
Well, yes. That's
but I'm being serious, right? There are plenty of people. We have to check our privilege at the mic stand here, right? We've got it pretty good. Right? Even though we're saying it's a struggle, it's hard to balance it or whatever, in the vast spectrum of the people who live simply in our city alone, right? We don't have half the problems that most people have.
True.
And their kids turn out great. I taught them, right? Their kids are not stressing about the fact that their, parents are between work and they're whatever. They're carrying that for sure, but they're also growing as a result of it in a way that maybe all that safety that we're trying to provide,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Where does evolution come from, I wonder?
Yeah.
But then there's the other flip, which is like it's purely selfish, where you just say to yourself, like, well, this is the person that I am, and this is who and I have to take the risk or whatever. And I think back to my own parents. I know that when my dad was the age I am now, he left a very stable career to take an unpaid internship, right? And my mom sat down, and he was like, okay, so I kind of want to do this. And she was like, well, then you should probably do it. He's like, well, we might have to, if it doesn't work, we might have to sell the house. We might have to sell all belongings and live in an apartment. How do you feel about that? And she said, would you be happy doing your job? Right? And my mom had been through lots of stuff in her life up until that point. She had been in another marriage. She had seen what happens when someone isn't content with the world that they have. So she was balancing her experience and saying, well, if you're going to be happy, then we'll be happy. So then who cares if we have a house or an apartment or a postage stamp or whatever? And both my parents grew up. My dad grew up in a house that literally had a dirt floor, right? And my mom was the daughter of people who were, he was like a fisherman. Her dad was a fisherman, and her mom worked part-time at the post office for a while before they took over the post office in Gimli. But, so they'd been where we would all be terrified to be is where they'd already been.
Okay.
Right? And so I think often about that when I'm like, oh man, do I dare risk this? Do I dare? And it's like, even if I fell to the level where they started, I'm still better off than the vast majority of people, really on the planet. So it's hard for me to not want to take that risk. But then the flip side is, are you just being selfish? Should you just do the quote unquote responsible thing and put in your hours and collect your check? And I don't know what the answer is. Again,
it's not a decision you have to make by yourself. If you have a significant other, you would speak to them about that. I'm sure you guys had a conversation before you went back full time into comics. Right?
We for sure did.
Yeah.
We for sure did. And it's an ongoing conversation because the landscape changes,
Yep.
Every couple of months for where we're at and what's happening. But deep down, I had already decided. Right?
Well, what if she had said no?
Yeah, well, this is what I guess, now we're in the real honest space in the podcast right now. I think I knew what my decision is before I entered into the decision with my loved ones as a conversation.
Okay.
Right? Or I wouldn't have been brave enough to have the conversation if I didn't already know what I wanted to do.
Right.
And maybe all I was going for was permission rather than collaboration.
I see.
Right? If I'm being we're getting deep into this now, but if I'm thinking about it, maybe that's it. And maybe the people who are willing to take that leap, the hard part for them is recognizing that it is selfish and they already decided and they're willing to put all that other stuff at risk. And that sounds like we're programmed that is the most selfish thing you can do.
My miserable, tragic error to get married to a man whose big dream in life is to be Huckleberry Finn.
The alternative, is forcing something that's potentially not working, not making you happy. Long term, what kind of person are you going to end up being?
Yeah, and I wonder, right? I have a buddy, a very free spirit, and he just bought a house, and he's everyone around him is oh, they're so proud of him because he has this stable job and a new daughter, and they just buying a house and whatever. And I went to visit him, and we're chatting, and he's like, when did it become the responsible thing to owe a bank hundreds of thousands of dollars? When did that become the responsible choice? He's like, we were living within our means, with no debt, and now that we've bought this house, I owe someone else this enormous amount of money, and I'm being heralded as the responsible father for making these.
Were they renting before?
They were renting before.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a cultural thing. People seem to attribute buying a house with moving up and leveling up, so to speak, as far as your
Because they're
life.
all in debt. They want you to be in debt too, and now we're all in debt together. Yay!
It's like the emperor's new clothes, right? As long as everyone is there together, believing it, then it doesn't feel like the wrong path.
And you never actually see that money. Like, you buy the house, all the paperwork goes through. You're like, okay, now you owe us this much money per month.
Yeah.
And that basically just make those payments. And it feels like rent. It feels just like paying rent.
Yeah, it's rent.
So
Well,
really,
you're an indentured labor to a different,
right. Yeah. So I think that there's a kind of I don't know. To me, there's no difference like paying rent, or the only difference is that you would get some of that. You get some of that money back when you sell the house, basically.
Right.
It is kind of an investment.
And in most cities, only if you sell the house and move to a smaller urban center.
That's right.
Because the house prices that seem like a good deal to you, that's what you have to buy now somewhere else.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. To make money.
So if it goes up 50%, it went up everywhere, even the thing you wanted now.
Yeah.
Right. Wow, we rounded this corner.
You know what I noticed is that when I come on the podcast, we bounce around for some reason more so than when you guys do the episodes.
You know why? Because I think we have an idea of what we're going to talk about, and we're going to present ourselves in this certain way. And you come in and you just ask questions, like a good radio host would ask a question that demands an honest answer.
Yeah, but also I have a different mindset, I guess, as far as these things. I don't always think about it.
We hang out too much, so we kind of know where each other's going.
Yeah, we're more an average. We're more an average of each other now, whereas you come in as the outlier, and we're like,
the same person.
Hey, why the hell do you do this?
Well, I hope not.
No.
Okay, so let's boil this down to... again, starting the podcast as a way to help people get their start in this industry. So you are talking to somebody who is at that point where they're trying to make this decision as far as whether or not they can go. We've talked to Corey J. We've talked to other people about this as well.
Bring up Corey J.
Like, she's a good example. Yeah. She talked about how you have to save up and make sure you have money set aside, which is obviously a good decision. But you're still like struggling with this decision. Do I do this? Do I have enough here to make a go of this as a full-time?
So one of the telling conversations that Tara and I had when we were like saying, okay, well, I'm going to do this and you're going to do this, because she's also doing creative stuff as her main source of income too. So it was like, were we financially independent before this decision? The answer is no, right? There were still times when surprises would happen, and your hot water tank blows up, or your car explodes, or whatever happens, and then suddenly it's outside of your regular budget, right? That is going to happen no matter what. And so are you just lying to yourself? Is it that emperor's new clothes scenario that you have, that it's stable, right? Probably not. It's not stable, right? Your health is not necessarily stable, and your career is not necessarily stable, and the field that you're in is not necessarily stable. Ask anyone in newspaper publishing in the last 20 years that had a good, stable job, whether it was true, or in the dot-com boom of the early 90s, right?
Early 90s, yeah.
Right? Those fields looked like the greatest thing, but they aren't stable, right? Automotive industry right now. Right? What a great stable job that must be.
Cable.
Right? Cable. Double down on cable. We might come back to cable. There's some interesting tech talk going around. But as our cellular phones slowly poison us, we might go back to hard tech. But I guess the idea is, like, if we're talking about like where to start, ask yourself if your idea of stability is one that is presented to you by others, or one that you understand yourself. It's like what you were saying, right? Like, we're all in debt. Let's be in debt together, right? If that's all it is, well, you can be in debt to yourself and go out and work freelance. And if someone is saying, well, I have a responsibility, I have to earn X, then you need to start lining up those jobs a year in advance. Like the thing that I figured out, the first year that I did freelance, there was this long, dark tea time of the soul where in the winter months, there was like 3 months in winter where there's only bills for paying for shows that are coming up. There's only the bills that you have in your regular life, and there is no freelance work to be had that you can get right away,
and no shows from which you can make money.
That's right. And so it was just this big nebula where everyone needs money out of you, and you're not getting any in, and so you're just like on the precipice of panic. But rather than like give in to that, I said, okay, well, if this is where we're at, I have to work now for next year. And so I started submitting, and I lined up projects, and like I worked this winter on projects that I lined up a year previous, right? Because that's people's publishing schedules. And so you just have to know where you're at. So if you're hoping for some practical advice and not just like whimsy about your soul in this episode.
I think that's important too, like your gut reaction of like you had already kind of decided it was, if it's something that is just always kind of burning inside you and it's what's filling up your free time and your after hours. And I think that was a big thing for me was I had a full-time job, but I put in hours and hours and hours of work that I wasn't getting paid for or recognized for because that's just what I had to do.
Yeah.
And eventually I started getting recognized in jobs and paid for it, but it just, there was, years of work that just kind of just had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a gut thing. It was just something I wanted to be doing.
Yeah. And so you have to figure out a way, I guess, to connect your impulse for what you want to do to some practical living.
Yeah,
right?
It's just maybe some people romanticize the idea of being a writer, but never write.
That's right.
People
want to have written.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted it. But yeah, and you have to, it's a slog. You have to do it every day. But everything's a slog.
Yeah.
You have to do everything every day, God, eating's such a chore, right?
Now get with it, Williams. Get with it, boy. Not only has your pet project backfired, but it's sprouted wings and left the premises.
When we come back around again, like practical advice to the person that is wondering, all of the feelings that you're having about whether or not you should, those are normal. Those are fine. You're going to have those no matter what. And even if everything's going great, you're still going to be asking yourself, is this the right project? Is that the right next thing, right? Should I have chased a bigger dream rather than settled into this more comfortable thing, right? Like there's an argument to be made that after, I had this little bit of profile as a result of doing the Apocrypha book, that should the next book I have done been one that's targeted directly at high school classrooms and is not at all genre specific, right? No, there's an argument to be made that no, you should have pivoted and done more of this other thing, but it was in me to do this next book. That was all I could do.
And you can still do that other book later.
I'm doing it.
You're still the artist of Apocrypha, so you still, that exists.
True, but I mean, and again, if we're talking about practical things, right? Like there is, like you doing some, Justin, you doing some design work for a Marvel movie. Right now, that has huge cachet because everyone knows them and loves them, and they're like, they haven't had a fall from grace. But maybe in a few years, people will be like, oh yeah, everyone worked on those, right?
Yeah.
Like seriously though, right? And so like after a couple of years, when it's not the new thing, it's just the thing that happened. Editors and the administrators, again, we're coming back around to that idea. The administrators of the arts look at it and say, oh, so your last big notable work was 3 years ago?
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
That's not a place you want to be in either. And so you have this, people get into this competitive mentality of like, oh, I have to have a new thing out, but of a certain caliber. And I think that's where we get a lot of burnout. Like when we're at comic shows and we're in the pro alley, a lot of those people are stressed out. Like they're not able to just appreciate the success of the great work they've done because they're trying to get the next high profile Marvel DC image book. And that to me seems like a great sadness. Like I'm proud of the work they've done and they don't even have time to sit around and be proud of it. They're already like worrying about whether or not the star is falling on them, that they have to,
They're yesterday's news.
They're already.
Oh, interesting.
And I mean, in entertainment, you're only as good as your last project. That's true, right? But that doesn't mean you don't keep working. Like I've brought this up on the podcast before. Can't think of it. Elizabeth Gilbert, I think, the writer of Eat, Pray, Love.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And when I say her name, not too many people clue in, but if I say Eat, Pray, Love, everyone knows it. She's written 6 books since then.
Oh.
Right? Has had a very stable career as a mid-list novelist. No big hits beyond that Eat, Pray, Love. And not worrying about it. Like her next book is the next book she wants to write. And that book was just the next book in the book she wanted to write, and it happened to catch on, and that was great.
There's probably better examples, but I think that's way better than, say, kind of what we're seeing with like the Harry Potter series. Rather than moving on from that world and working on other things. They're trying to. It feels like they're trying to cash in with that Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah.
And that first movie was okay, and then I haven't seen the second movie, but everybody's just. It's like they're trying to milk the world of all it's worth rather than moving on and doing something else.
I remember the moment in the credits. I'm one of those guys who stays till the end of movies and reads all the credits.
Before they started doing end scenes?
Oh, yeah, way before that. Like, it was the one thing when Tara and I first, like 20 years ago, when my wife and I first like started hanging out, we'd go to movies together, and she'd be like, wait, you're serious? Like, you want to read these? And I was like, yeah, like, I want to know how it's made. I want to know how it's done. But anyway, the point of bringing that up is that the first time I noticed in the credits that the copyright information was attributed no longer to J.K. Rowling but to Warner Brothers as the owners of those characters. I saw the writing on the wall for this idea that it's just a product slate.
Was that mid-series in the films, or was that in the first film?
I want to say that I was so woke to the idea that I noticed it between one film and the other, but I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
I feel like that just might be the story I'm telling myself, but I do know that one of the later films in the franchise, I remember reading that and being like, wait, she no longer owns the copyright on these characters. She sold it.
Yeah.
It belongs to someone else. She's the shepherd. She's the Stan Lee, right? Like, she's still the face of it and still the spirit of it, and still the place you go, still the source.
But she's not writing any new books in that universe.
That we know of.
Well,
she did that.
Even Fantastic Beasts was like a screenplay or something. It was never a book.
Yeah.
And that other one,
Cursed Child,
was a play. That was not.
But it's like, I really don't like that idea of like you have a success and then you don't move on from it. You try to recreate it within itself. And we see that it shows a lot, people kind of still cashing in on something huge that happened a long time ago, and I really just there's a fear of that, and I don't like it.
But is that you becoming not you, like not you Justin, but you, the collective, us and you, is that a person becoming the administrator of their own life? Like they see a thing that provides some stability and they're like, well, okay, I have other hopes and dreams, but this thing pays the bills, so I got to do it, right?
Isn't that selling out? Isn't that what's known as selling out?
Well, I wonder, like, would you say, you're a big Trek fan, would you say Jonathan Frakes sells out by going to shows all the time and, like, repping Trek? I don't think so. He, like, either he's a great actor, which I think he is.
He is, and a great director.
But he might also
well.
be a great actor in presenting himself as a fan of the fans. But I don't think that. I think he's genuine. I think it's a genuine love of what he does that puts him in there. So while we may see a franchise that, he was the star of decades ago and say like, oh, can't that guy let that go? Or you can look at a guy who's put his time in front of the camera aside, and now he's behind the camera directing and shepherding other people's careers. And, apocryphally, he learned how to direct by
on the show,
watching other directors direct, and kept asking for a chance. And they're like, well, you never, what do you mean? You're just an actor, right? And he had to fight against the idea that an actor could take over that role of directing the whole show, right? So I think we have to be careful of our perceptions, but I definitely get the alarm. Yeah, when you see people who are like just the same series over and over and over, but then if people are reading it, the purpose of a book is to be read, and people are reading it, and you're the author of that book, and they want more.
Yeah, it's definitely not a black and white conversation. There's lots of people who have been doing the same thing for decades, and it's still fantastic.
Yeah, but then you become beholden to the fans, right? Like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, right? The reason he killed Sherlock Holmes was he was so done with it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly. That's I can't imagine them killing Harry Potter.
Right.
At this point.
No, but they did. They just let him live his whole life. They just told you, like,
right.
Yeah. And then he gets old and dies.
Yeah. He has kids. He names his kid after Snape, and then
spoiler
alert. Come on, guys. It's been out for decades now. Not decades, but a long time.
Like, it's been kind of, I like watching what Daniel Radcliffe is doing now. He
does
didn't
stuff
just
other than
fade away to be known as the guy who played Harry Potter. He has been in a lot of different movies and done a lot of interesting things, and I've quite enjoyed a lot of his films since.
Mm-hmm. So then you have to have the fortitude to recognize that you'll be recognized for some things until you stick around long enough to be recognized for other things.
Yeah.
Right?
Like Justin Timberlake. Not just the NSYNC guy anymore. He kind of...
Oh, yeah. I forgot about him in NSYNC.
And that's what everybody was saying when he always trying to do his solo thing, but that's never going to work. And then he started acting and doing his own thing, and like he's this whole new thing now. But
Did you go see him? Did you go see Justin?
I did
Timberlake
not.
last week?
No,
Yeah,
I like
no,
him.
he was just on Sunday. He was here in Winnipeg, rented out a curling club or
Yeah.
something, and watched
the Super
some
Bowl.
sport. Oh, it was the Super Bowl.
Some sport.
Some sport was occurring in a bowl. Yeah. Is a ramen? Was a ramen occurring? Some kind of ramen sport?
That's the Super Bowl to me.
Well, we've ranged wildly,
As always when
as
I'm on.
always. We were pretty focused the last couple of episodes, but I think what's important if you listened all the way to the end and you wondered like, what is this emotional roller coaster? That it's normal to have that storm going inside of you, and that even though we made the decision and we're living with our decisions, there are lots of forces at play. So it's okay. But I still think that you should make the things that are in you to make, that you should take the time away from your prescribed life to do some wild things and join the fight and make comics.